everyone. Welcome to our special year-end 2024 edition of Can This Even Be Called a Music Club? Astute viewers will recognize that we are a man down today. Our fearless leader, Dave Tremblay, is away becoming a father. So congratulations to Dave,
Congrats,
to him and his
Daddy
partner. That's
Dave.
fantastic. So this is going to be a little bit shorter. Normally, a typical one of these episodes, we each bring one album to the table and talk about it for a long time. Today, we're going to bring our top 10s of 2024 and talk about them for a little bit shorter time so we don't keep you here for 5 hours.
Yeah,
But we've each prepared some semblance of a list, and
yeah.
we're going to reflect on the year that was. So before that, fit check. What are we rocking today? Bishop, who are you wearing?
I got Noel on today. This shirt is so good.
Yeah,
It's so comfy. Got the Noel shirt on.
cool logo.
Yeah,
Jeff, what's under the
I've
hoodie?
got my friend Trapper's band Scorched Moon on.
Torched Moon, legit.
cool.
I threw on First Rain, which is yeah, there we go. Now defunct Canadian melodic death metal band, one of the early bands of drummer Sean Lang, who is now in Kardashev.
Okay. Can
It's
you explain can you explain your outfit just a little bit more? Is that a merch collared shirt, or do you have a collared shirt underneath the merch
Yeah.
shirt, band shirt, or what?
This is a layering thing. I'm wearing a
Okay.
long-sleeved regular collared shirt under a band t-shirt because I wanted to slap on a band t-shirt instead of just
Okay.
showing up to this in
Okay.
traditional attire. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
but I'm always cold, so long sleeves it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. We got a lot of snow today.
All right.
Gotcha.
So, welcome, and let's have Bishop kick things off. Tell us about your albums of the year.
Yes, I chose 10 albums. I've got some more than honorable mentions at the end, just some songs or little releases that I really liked. I say they're more than honorable because I'm being fake. It was hard for me to pick, top 10. I mean, I know what my favorite of last year was, but I love all the other records so much. It makes me feel bad or almost sad to say, oh, that's six, that's three. You know, it kind of made, as I was writing notes, it made me feel sad. So I've got a number one, everything else, let's say it's all tied for number two. And then the my more than honorable mentions, I'll do it at the end. And like Matt was saying, we're going to try and be a little bit quicker. I know that I wrote my notes with that in mind. I'm a master yapper. So let's go ahead and get it going. I'll actually start with my number one first. I know that's unorthodox, but
Your call.
favorite album of last year was Wormed Omegon. That album, it's underhandedly magnificent. Okay. It's rightfully nerdy. If anything, I feel like last year was a really good year for being into extreme metal stuff and being a huge nerd.
Totally.
Every single riff on the album scratches my brain. Wormed and another band, I won't reveal their name yet, but these two bands are the only bands that, in my mind, have permission to write lyrics like they do. I'm convinced that the guys in Wormed, they really think about shit like gravitational servo matrix. That dude, the vocalist of Wormed, he's really stressed. It's not a joke. He is stressed about that. He's stressed about Proto God. And in my opinion, two robots on the cover, they're about to kiss. They're not fighting. They're not mad. They love each other. That's my take on Wormed Omegon. So good. Next, tied for number two with 8 other records, Ulver, Liminal Animals.
Mm.
The way they released this one's a little odd. I'm confused. I thought this was called something else. And they, I think, released the entire record in singles. That's weird. But to me, it sounds like if Raul and the Kings of Spain era Tears for Fears and like Depeche Mode and even a little bit of Coil, if they all had like a fruity little baby, this is what it would sound like. Krallice, Inorganic Rights. This Krallice record to me is the perfect marriage between synth Krallice and black metal Krallice. If John Carpenter played synth in Bluthaus Nord, or if Goblin loved Euroblasts, it might kind of sound like Inorganic Rights to me. Next up is Knoll, As Spoken.
Totally.
Not sure if you caught their set at Subterranean Dissonance Fest last
Yes, I
year,
did. It was
but
intense.
dude, I rarely feel this way, but they sound even better live than this record sounds, and the record sounds really good. Not only are like all the members of the band extremely humble, but I don't know if there's any studio recording that can really convey to you how intense they are when they perform these songs live.
Mm.
Uh, they, I just hope they get scarier and scarier, because their whole image, sound, aesthetic cohesion is like so focused. Everything works. And yeah, just live, Jamie. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jamie recorded or tracked some of the songs on this record in like one take, because he can fucking do it.
Mm.
Um, Concrete Winds, self-titled, also crazy ass grind record from last year. Uh, Reminds me of Clinging to the Trees of a Forest Fire and a different band. They were on Gilead, Black Arrows of Filth and Impurity. This silly band name, but there are only a handful of bands that when I hear them, I'm like, okay, that's death grind. That's what that sounds like.
Mm.
Concrete Winds is like that. Crazy good. Every single song is at like maximum energy, just no breaks. Sick. Okay. Nerd Metal 2024. The other band that I think is allowed to write lyrics like this is Gigan. Anomalous Abstractigate Infinitesimus. Okay. Best song titles. Best song titles and best album names easily of any band in this sort of circle of metal. You got Ultraviolet Shimmer and Permeating Infrasound. Uh, yeah, I want to fucking listen to that. Okay, it's sick. In comparison to Wormed, it's a little murkier. There's more bass. It doesn't feel quite as sparkly. And I think that, in comparison to Worm, just another extremely nerdy metal band, the Gigan songs kind of like lurk a little bit. They will bust out into some crazy riff that's just, face melting, but they're more willing to spend some time. When I listened to it last night trying to write notes, it reminded me of when crocodiles kind of float in the water and their eyes are just above the surface, and then suddenly they snap out or something. It kind of lurks, has a lurking sound. Awesome. And I also just have to say they are unacceptably underrated and underappreciated. I think they have 3 to 5,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. They deserve more than that because they're insane and they've been around for a long time. Next up is Teeth, The Will of Hate.
Yeah.
I think this was kind of like a sleeper hit of last year. I don't want to like name this person, but there's some Facebook groups for weird black metal stuff or just like dissonant music. And I love that Facebook group because, I mean, not that you have to look any certain way to enjoy music like this, but there's this guy who looks incredibly normal, just the normalest looking guy ever. And when this album dropped, he would not shut up about it. He was like, dude, this is so, so good. And he's like a dad. He's smiling in his profile picture. He looks so pleasant. And everything that he posts in those groups is always extremely good. So I checked this out. I was like, oh yeah, it's already the best. It was actually crazy good. It feels like this album was made in a lab where every single stank face rhythm or riff from the last 10 years of like groove and death metal. It's all on this record. It has bits and pieces of Meshuggah. Vocals remind me of Beneath the Massacre. And I think that the production value, it reminds me of Helpless. So it's bass heavy, it's heavy as shit, and just there's no lollygagging. Because the vocals remind me so much of Beneath the Massacre, in my mind, I was like, this band's from Canada. I had to look and see, is this band from Canada? According to their Bandcamp, they're from LA. I think that's a lie. I feel like they're probably secretly from Canada because he sounds Canadian to me. Next up is Genital Shame, Chronic Illness Wish. So I didn't know about this until I was trying to go through all the stuff that I had listened to last year. I was curious what other people really liked. Shout out to Machine Music Blog. That dude, you know, he does the songs I liked this week in list form. Saw Genital Shame on there. Here's the thing. I am a sucker for big serif font on the album cover. Like red serif font, Genital Shame. I'm already like, okay, if I see serif font on the album cover, I'm thinking this is fucking serious right now. This is serious. So let's, no joking, be serious. At its heaviest, it kind of reminds me of Mastery a little bit. And I didn't know that the dude from I didn't know Mastery for one was just one guy. And that dude is in Spirit Possession now. So I don't know if we'll ever get another Mastery record, but I've wanted one. And so at its heaviest, it reminds me of that. At its most gentle, though, it actually kind of reminds me of Will Swan, like Will Swan's guitar playing. He's in Dance Gavin Dance. He's in like a million bands, but that sort of post-hardcore twinkly sound reminds me of that at its most gentle. And then it still just breaks up all those gentle bits with horrible sounding harmony, and it rocks. I mean, it's fucking sick as hell. These two, we've already talked about them in length, but they really were in my top 10. Thought they were so good. Extra Life, The Sacred Vowel, of course. Charlie Looker's ability to express shame and fear and worry, embarrassment through music is impressive. It's like astounding to me. When you listen to this record, it's as if the songs are coming to you to confide in you. They're nearly confessional at times. And so the songs, they confess their shame, they confess their worry. The songs trust you to do them justice by accepting and hearing those moments, those stories, those experiences of shame and guilt, and not rub it in his face or rub it in the track's faces. It's very vulnerable. I feel like he very openly writes about things that other artists or musicians would be careful to only allude to rather than really put the spotlight on. Three Worms, second to last track. Insanely good example of that. Insanely good. Then the last one is, of course, Euboa, Impossible Light. We've discussed this one a shit ton, so I won't wax on about it for too long, but just very simply, Xander's ability to make music that is abrasive and sounds enormous, it's emotional, but still retains that catchy or like banger quality. It's kind of crazy. It's not easy to do at all. It's very special and unique to me. I love it so much. And then I've got some more than honorable mentions. I love these releases so much. I didn't listen to them quite as much, but Senza, Celestial Body, that is the best blackened screamo band that has ever existed. They are the best. I love them. I need a new full length from them. They're the fucking best. Found this one very recently, but it surprised me. Abyssal, not the other Abyssal, but Abyssal. They got a track called Glacial, okay? 43-minute long single. It kept my attention the entire time. Next time, double it. Make the song twice as long next time. And then the last thing I've got, Machine Girl, Black Glass. I think that may have been my single favorite song of last year. That is a perfect song, perfect beauty, perfect song. That's actually all my note says is my favorite song of last year, perfect song, perfect beauty. What I meant by that, you'll have to go listen to it because it's that good. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't. That is my top releases of 2024, all in one go.
Fantastic. Nice stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, great picks. I jotted down a couple of notes as you were talking. On the Krallice album, I tend to agree. I'm a massive, massive fan of the first three Krallice releases, and then
Yep.
they just sort of kept churning out album after album after album, and it felt to me personally that as they experimented with a lot of different stuff, it didn't have that thing that made the first, like when they were really focused on making complex melodic black metal. I loved that. And then they started bringing
Yeah.
all these other influences. Hit and miss. Like I like some of the albums. This one really did feel like it has some of that specialness from the early days, and it has everything else they've been working on for the past decade. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a good album. Noel, like you mentioned, we both saw him in Philly last February. I like when a band has sort of a foundation of grind, but does other stuff with it. I'm not that interested in
Yes.
pure grind stuff, but
Yeah.
Noel, Wake is one of those bands that where they were a grindcore band and then they sort of became a
Mm.
progressive death metal band, but didn't forget how to grind.
Yeah.
Wrath, the band Wrath that has a V instead of the A that is now defunct. I love their albums. They're great. They kind of remind me of that. Teeth. I didn't listen to this album as much as some of their past work, but the concentrated intensity. That's what you're talking
Dude,
about. Like it is
yes.
maximalist, vicious, intense death metal. Big fan of that album. And then the common thread in your last two, and again, we talked about it at length on the episode, Extra Life and Euboa and a few other albums this year. There's this concept of like when an artist just opens up completely and lets you see
Yeah.
inside of them. And
Yeah.
that's really interesting and attractive, regardless of what genre or musical style it is. When an artist is just pouring themselves out into it and letting you see all the ugliness, all the shame, all the uncertainty, that makes really special musical experiences. So it was great to see
Totally.
a lot of that this year.
Totally. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. Yeah, that first Teeth record, The Curse of Entropy, I remember when
That's
that
great.
came out, and we played it on the radio a ton because it's just wonky in all the right ways. And so yeah, it's very concentrated. So I appreciate that. Um, Again with Extra Life and Euboa, totally. You know, so I know you write a ton of music. I also write music, and when you write lyrics, like you want to write things that are, at least for me, I'm assuming for you too, whether it's a story or it's something more personal or like autobiographical, vaguely, you want to be honest, but it's nearly, I would nearly say that it's very brave to be like, I'm going to write about something that I did that's like just so embarrassing, or like a fear that's just so, it feels maybe not even worth mentioning, but it's very personal. It's I agree, it can make for a very special, magical listening experience, especially when you do that and there's some kind of payoff. If someone says, dude, that song spoke to me, uh and I I'm just very impressed by that. impressed by their transparency for sure.
I hadn't listened to most of the albums that you listed, except for the last two that we did in our podcast. And those two didn't make my top 10, but I do agree that they are fantastic albums. But yeah, we listen to pretty different genres, so I don't really listen to much of the heavier stuff that comes out.
No, I'm stoked to. I'm
Yeah,
very curious what because we didn't share notes with each other. I have no
no,
idea what y'all's
It'll be really
lists
funny
are.
if there are 30 different albums between the three of us. We
yeah,
at all.
Yeah,
Well, Jeff,
yeah,
what do you listen
yeah.
to? Let us know. Give
All
us your
right,
top
yeah,
10.
dude.
I'll go next. So,
Yeah,
um, I'll say the top one, and then again, kind of similar, just not really any specific order for the rest of them. But my top one was the new Opeth album, as I was very much anticipating
I'm
that.
shocked. I'm
Yeah.
shocked. Never saw this coming.
Yeah. I mean, obvious pick for me, Opeth back with growl vocals, making a concept album. What's not to like? So yeah, that definitely made the top album for me. Um, After that, the album Thim by Azure, uh, that surprised me when we did the podcast. That was our first podcast episode that was featured in, and I hadn't heard of the band before, but definitely one of my favorite albums this year. Just awesome classic prog, and like you, Matt, I have the book. I just haven't read much of it yet, but I will be reading that soon. Um, After that, there's Ubiquity, The Ascendant Travels Among the Stars. That was in our fourth podcast episode, which we haven't released yet, but very heavily Opeth inspired. Uh, Tided me over until the new Opeth album came out, so that was a good album to have in the meantime, and really enjoyed just the blend of plot prog and metal in that album. Very classic Opeth. And then the new Frost album, Life in the Wires. Uh, Milliontown was the first album I heard of them, which is like one of my favorite prog albums. Um, and this new album, they said that they were trying to recapture that Milliontown feel with this new album, which they kind of went the opposite direction on their previous album, which I didn't like as much. So I like that they went back into that kind of Milliontown vibe with this album. So it uh, really clicked with me in that way. And then there's the Neil Morris and the Resonance album. Neil Morris finding a whole new group of musicians, which he had been using the same kind of few guys for his solo albums for the longest time. So this is kind of a fresh Neil Morris album that we haven't gotten in quite a while. And my favorite on that album is the title track, which is a 29-minute epic, and uh, that really surprised me because his releases have kind of gotten a bit stale over the years, and this is kind of a nice, fresh kind of restart to his creativity. Um, and then this is an album that Dave dropped in the chat at one point. Ritual: The Story of Mr. Bog, Part One. It's a classic prog concept album. Um, and apparently the band hadn't released anything since 2007, so it's a long time coming album for the band Ritual, and I really enjoyed that. It has a good variety of kind of styles in the prog uh, kind of blend of like prog and really intrigued me. So I'm interested to see what part two will be like since this is a part one. And then there's the new album by Beardfish, which is another band that has recently come back together since their last album was in 2015. And so it's the album Songs for Beating Hearts, really good classic sounding prog. I've kept up with Rikard Halblum's solo work. He's the front man of Beardfish, and uh, this kind of takes what he's kind of achieved in his solo career and combined it with what he had done early on with Beardfish and made like a kind of new kind of combination of the two, which is really good. Another album is collaboration between Cirque Link and Christian Nesmith with the album Arcana, another one that Dave turned me on to. It's a good female-fronted prog metal concept album where each song name is the name of a different tarot card. It's like nice long prog songs, very interesting stuff. Next one I have is Avnia Road to I, which is the solo album from the frontman of Obsidian Tide. And it was one I almost picked for a podcast, but Ubiquity beat it out for that podcast episode. But it's a great album, just really short. It's like almost like an EP of an album. And then last but not least, I have Devin Townsend's new album Power Nerd, which I basically love everything Devin Townsend does. So I had to include him, but it's one of his weaker albums, I'd say, because it was just an attempt to release something quick and more accessible while he works on his complex stuff. Mm-hmm. So he has some upcoming projects, The Moth, Axolotl, and Ruby Quaker, which are all going to be like really complex, weird things. And so I'm more interested in the weird things that he has in the works. But this was something to tide everyone over, and it still has some good, solid prog songs on it. And then I do have also a couple honorable mentions, some that I haven't listened to as much, but I think deserve some mention. John Anderson came out with a new album with the band Geeks. So it's basically John Anderson and a Yes cover band making new Yes music, since John Anderson is no longer in Yes. And it's definitely better than John Anderson's last solo release. And it's impressive what he can still do at the age of 80. Like he has like a crazy unique voice, and he can still sing at his age, and that's kind of impressive. Yeah, it's awesome. Like and this album just has solid songwriting and good catchy prog songs. Also on this list I have Jordan Rudess's Permission to Fly, which is him for the first time kind of creating a band and making a solo album rather than just kind of keyboard wankery that he just creates in his own studio. He just kind of made his own like prog band, which is kind of unique. Another album is Baroque Project Time Voyager, which is a good prog metal album. And then The Tangent and Kaipa both released new albums. They're good classic prog bands, but I didn't feel like either of them were strong enough to be in my top 10. They're just bands that I always kind of check out when they release something new. And so that's my full list.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think the only album besides the only two records from yours that I had heard were, from the other episodes.
Yeah.
Pleroma and Azure. I remember really liking Pleroma. Same with
so
that.
So Pleroma, I didn't actually put in my top 10. It was Ubiquity that I put in my top 10.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And we haven't released the episode with Ubiquity yet. That was our 4th recorded podcast.
Oh, okay. I remember
but I'd say Pleroma deserves an honorable mention too. That was a good album too.
Yeah, Pleroma and Ubiquity. Both am I getting those right? So Ubiquity is a band, Pleroma is a band?
Yes.
Right?
No, Orgon is the band.
Orgon is the band, Pleroma is the album by Orgon. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, both of those records I remember thinking were extremely good, and I was like pleasantly surprised because I know I've said it, but y'all are the prog heads.
Yeah.
I'm not as much of a prog head. So when a prog album, I'm like, that's really good. I'm always pleasantly surprised. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to have my judgment, my prejudice, disproven. But the other ones, I ain't never even heard of it.
Yeah, I wrote down when you mentioned Frost, love that album. Just like you, I love Milliontown.
Yeah.
I did like Day and Age. It was okay.
I like some songs from it.
It wasn't quite that like, oh, this is awesome prog kind of stuff.
Yeah. Falling Satellites was like their like last great album until this one. that one I really enjoyed as well.
Yeah. No, but I liked I think one of the big things Jim said, they sort of brought back solos.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
With
was
day and age, they
it's not
tried to
all
avoid
wankery,
solos.
but
Yeah,
Frost is really good at balancing those like really techy in complicated parts with good straightforward melodic hooks and like
yeah,
balancing all that. They're one of the best at that. Neil Morse, I don't think I ever got around to listening to the full album because what
yeah,
Neil does, I love Neil Morse.
yeah,
He is he is a tension of two things, which is like
yeah,
the dad prog 5 minute radio single guy,
yeah.
which is
Like
a terrible
the
song.
song "Thief" on that
Yeah.
album, I didn't really
So I think that was one of
jive
the
with.
ones he like put out first, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
new Neil Morse. Oh, it's not that good. I didn't even realize there was a 20 minute and a 29
yeah.
minute song on the album.
Listen to
I
"No
gotta go
Hill
back
for a
and check that
Climber."
out now.
Listen to the song "No Hill for a Climber." It's like 29-minute epic, and it's
Yeah,
got like all
that's
the
the Neil
classic,
Morse I
yeah,
love.
all the classic Neil Morseisms. It's like the perfect. It almost has transatlantic vibes. It's
I
a good
love
song.
Transatlantic. I
Yeah,
love Transatlantic.
yeah,
That's great. So I didn't even realize, I guess, that album existed. I knew there was
yeah,
something, but I kind of dismissed it because of
yeah.
what I'd seen.
I'd
So
say it's a good album besides the song "Thief." Like,
okay, that's I'm remembering one of the earlier incarnations of the Neil Morse band.
yeah,
Um, I think the Grand Experiment was the album,
yeah.
and that has a song on it called Agenda, which is just like this
Oh,
is
yeah.
terrible. That's
That
an awful song, but it
Thief
also
is
has like
along
a
those
30
lines.
minute closer that's awesome.
Yeah,
So that's the
yeah.
Neil Morse
And
experience.
Agenda has like the corniest music
It's
video.
so
It's like so bad.
so bad. That's every Neil Morse album is epic opener, three terrible songs,
Yeah,
epic closer.
yeah.
That's Neil
Basically,
Morse in a
yeah.
nutshell.
What's the song that has the really corny music video?
Agenda.
Agenda.
Okay.
Check it out
I'm
later.
gonna, yeah, I gotta check this out.
Well, Jeff holding it down with the sort of traditional prog,
Yeah,
classic prog
Yeah.
stuff. Bishop with the heavy, mostly running thread there. I am both of those things. I'm
yeah.
going for the extremely heavy progressive stuff. That's what speaks to
Okay.
me. So I'm gonna break the mold here and go 10-1 because I'm a dramatic countdown sort of guy. And I'll
Gotcha.
throw a couple honorable mentions first. I could probably do 50 if I looked at my
Yeah,
spreadsheet,
for real.
but just to keep it concise, I'm going to throw out the new Kamasi Washington, Fearless Movement. Kamasi does not miss. This album is not 2 or 3 hours long like his previous work, but it is fantastic. Every song on it is great. They're diverse. Some of them are more like upbeat, complicated jazz arrangements, and some are like Computer Love, which is like a Daft Punk doing R&B kind of situation. It's just a fantastic album. I've got Play Roma by Oregon as an honorable mention. It breaks my heart not to put that in the top 10 because I really think like what they did musically there with the balance of metal and orchestration and the songwriting is so, so good. I don't know how that's like my 10 and a half album. It's like right there on the cusp. Um, I had one other one I wanted to mention. No, maybe I didn't. Okay, those are my two honorable mentions. Number 10, and I also have a few albums on here that we've talked about on other episodes, which will make it easy to sort of streamline.
Yeah.
Go check out our other stuff if you want to hear more about this. Surprise,
Yeah.
surprise, like we picked albums to talk about that we liked. So my number 10 is Cronerg, Heart of a Cherry Pit Sun. This is an album that Dave released on the Not Music label. It's broadly speaking sort of blackened Zool, which I love. That's a thing that needs to be explored more and is starting to get explored more. Um, Something we mentioned when we talked about it is like when it first hits those first like 2 or 3 minutes of the album, you're like, this is going to be the album of the year. And then it doesn't quite live up to that. It's a really good album, but just like it could have done more. And instead it does like a lot right away. And then it just kind of stays there. But just really, really interesting composition. Um, Looking forward to hearing more of that project. Number 9 is where I'm going to put Monarch of Monsters by Violet Pony. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that because I think I'm going to talk a lot about it on a subsequent episode. I have a strong
Yeah.
feeling that's going to end up being my pick. This album, there are moments when I'm listening to it where I'm like, there's nothing better that came out this year. There are moments on that album that are so unbelievably good. It's like melodic, synth heavy indie stuff, and then it's swans, and then it's hyper pop, and it's the composition is really rich and layered. I think it shares a little bit of DNA with Azure in some way. It's not nearly as prog, but it's similarly like melodic and bombastic and creative. Um, but more to come on that. I'm really, really intrigued by that album. And even though I put it at 9, I'll probably revisit that album in the future more than a lot of the albums I have above it because it's so catchy and intriguing and requires, deep listening. Number 8, I've got Perdurance by Convulsing, Brendan Sloan's solo progressive death metal, don't call it Disso Death or I will come to your house and beat you up album. It's not Disso Death in the sense that it doesn't share overlap with like your ulcerates and your other stuff like that. It's influenced by those things, but what Brendan does, just extremely solid creative riffing, really unique song structures, excellent lyrics. I really thought he jumped up a notch. Like I liked Convulsing before this, but when I put this on, I was like, oh, great, new Convulsing. And it blew me away. Like he really, really leveled up in terms of creativity and songwriting and production also for this album. The album sounds fantastic for being a one-man release, something I aspire to sound as clean and as heavy as he does. 7, I go Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere. I don't like when I agree with sort of the masses on stuff. I like being countercultural, but this album just is that good. Like it got a lot of hype and it deserved it. This is one of 3 albums that I would put in the niche of 2024 death metal bands exploring 70s prog in a lot of different ways. One of those is Opeth. It was Jeff's number 1. That's not in my top 10. I think it's a good album. It's really good. It brings me, it's the most interesting Opeth album since Watershed to me. Not just for the growls. I love the growls, but like like Krallice, like they got lost somewhere along the way for me, and I was not really on board with what they were doing anymore. But I really like that. But Blood Incantation, their shtick was, what if we played extreme death metal and also were Pink Floyd or Tangerine Dream, which literally they got the guy from Tangerine Dream on one of the songs.
Wow.
And the only thing that I don't love about this album is that they don't really blend those two aspects that well. They do metal and then they do like a light prog electronic atmospheric thing, and then they go back and do metal, and it's juxtaposed and the songwriting good, but I would be a lot more interested if those things were married together. Give me the Tangerine Dream and the blast beats all at the same time. Give me everything. But I mean, what's not to love about 2 long tracks of metal progginess? Really, really good album. On the Black and Zool front, number 6, I have Hoplites Para Meinomene. This band also, I liked previous releases, and then this came out and it was like, oh, this goes somewhere new. It's got saxophone all over it. It's got really, really angular guitar riffs that remind me a lot of Thantifaxath, that are just like really dissonant, really sort of geometric in the way that they're done, which is to say, not so much based in music theory as based on just how a guitar is laid out. Like you're just doing notes because they're close together, and it creates this weird sort of dissonant melodies and harmonies. Super complex album, pretty intense, but not too intense where you can, not get pummeled by it. Super interesting. Love that. More pummeling, Mitochondrion Vitroseptome. I've been begging for a new Mitochondrion since Parasygnosis in 2011.
Yes.
And it came out and it lived up to the hype. They delivered. It's everything I want. It's extremely long. It's extremely intense. It's so intense that I haven't been able to quite fully grapple it yet. Like it hasn't stuck with me. But I just remember listening to it and being like, yes, like thank goodness this is here. It's fantastic. Really heavy, really dissonant. That's the kind of disso death that I like. And they're the masters of it. Number 4, Kairos, Mannequin. Celexa Dreams was probably my album of the year 2020. It was a close race. And Mannequin hit me a little differently when I first listened to it, and I wasn't sure if, if it was quite as good, but I kept going back to it and I kept going back to it, and I think it's a little bit broader. They explore more sonic territory on it. You got a track like Esoterica that's this sort of like 7 minute long Dream Theater electro pop song. And then you've got songs that are more sort of traditional prog. The production on Kairos is like another member of the band. Like their music works because of the way it's produced. They're doing this thing where it's like prog and pop with like 80s new wave and 90s almost like adult contemporary sensibilities, but all integrated into heavy music. And there's nothing else out there like it. And this is another one where like you could tell me it's number one and I'm like, yeah, sure, like probably. It's really good. Top three. These are my sort of 10 through 4. You could shuffle them around a bit without too much complaint. My top three is solid though. The best of the extreme metal meets 70s prog this year was not Opeth and was not Blood Incantation. It was Bedsore with the album Dreaming the Strife to Love. I love Italian metal when it's done right. I love November. I didn't love Bedsore's debut, but on this album, they sound like sort of like that Goblin or other weird like RIO 70s prog stuff. And it is married better with the metal. The complaint I had about Blood Incantation. Bedsore is capable of doing both the keyboard laden ELP symphonic prog and metal at the same time. And it's really weird and really unique and something that only they can do. I like a band that has a particular niche, and they are like, when you're listening to that album, you're like, there is not another album that sounds like this. So really love that. Number two, we talked about on a future episode as of that's previously recorded, hasn't come out yet. Ingurgitating Oblivion, Ontology of Naught. Maybe the best drumming I've ever heard on a death metal album. 5 tracks, all super, super long, super intense, but balanced between like really intense. The metal on this album, it's not intense in like a mitochondrian way or a blood incantation way. It rolls at you. It's like an avalanche, and then it stops and you just like have this spaciousness that's filled with light, delicate jazz drumming and like nuanced guitar work. And it's unbelievable. There's nothing else like it. Go to that episode to hear more when that's out. Number one will surprise nobody because I called it the best album of the past 5 years when we talked about it. It's Fim by Azure. It is everything I was looking for in an Azure full length that wasn't quite delivered on their past of Brine and Angel's Beaks. They did something magical with Redtail, and Fim did it again. It's magical all the way through. It's got epic tracks. It's got shorter poppy tracks that still work. It's got this brilliant overarching narrative that is an incredible self-contained story and is also contained in a larger lore that other music and, as Jeff pointed out, books are contributing to. And Chris Sampson's voice is as unbelievable as ever. The way that he can go to like delicate lilting harmonies or belt out these incredible high notes that soar over the top of the music. Probably my favorite single moment of that on the album is in Sky Sailing, where the music is like sort of building, and then when the music hits, he hits a super high note to go with it, and it's just like, whoa, pops out of nowhere. And then from there on, the song goes for like 8 more minutes of just being unbelievable. I've listened to this album 100 times this year, and I'll listen to it 100 more times. It is awesome.
Nice, dude. That is a good, that is good. There's some stuff that uh I hadn't even heard of. There was stuff that I've seen, we're probably in some of the same groups, or maybe we talked about it just in our chat, but I just never checked it out for one reason or another. I knew you were gonna have Ingurgitating Oblivion on yours, so I was like, I loved it, but I felt like you loved it more. So I was like, I know it's going to be on Matt's list. Let's let Matt have it. Yeah, crazy fucking good. Again, in a future episode, I'm sure I talked about this for way longer than was necessary, but the production on that record, Matt is correct. Like, it rolls at you, it feels like an avalanche. The most intense moments on that record, they shocked me. I don't remember the last time I've felt that way before hearing the new Ingurgitating Oblivion, but it's so heavy, so intense. The mixing is so like aggressive whenever it's at its heaviest that I felt actually shocked in a way. And that was special to me. Mitochondrion, I also love this one. I would put that also in, the ring for 2024 was a huge nerd metal. Same with Blood Incantation. Nerd metal just kind of reigned supreme, I guess, in 2024. My little anecdote about Mitochondrion is, yeah, no true full length since 2011. I can't remember exactly how old I was or what grade I was in 2011, but this is another one of those albums, Parasygnosis, that is, that when I was like a kid, maybe like eighth grade or something, I would see Parasygnosis suggested on YouTube when I was listening to just other music. And I think I probably tried to listen to it and didn't really understand like what it was supposed to be. It didn't make sense to me yet. I remember anti-numerology coming out and thinking like that's a really interesting name. Like that, what does that mean? And being fascinated by that. But I hadn't been listening to them, super regularly. But the fact that they came back with a full length after since 2011 and it sounds just as fresh as like they're aware of all the shit that's been happening in metal music for that entire time and they just knock it out of the park. That's so sick. It's sick when a band so from a Second Story Window, they dropped a single very recently and they hadn't, released anything in a long time and it's so good. And it's like an awesome feeling when a band that you have liked or been aware of for a long time, they make a comeback and they don't seem out of touch. They seem more in touch with the trends or like what's kind of cool right now. And they put their own personal spin on it. That's awesome. Didn't hear the new Convulsing record. I should have. I remember you being excited about it. Uh Hoplates, is that how you pronounce it?
Hoplitase, I think.
Hoplates. This is okay. So that person, their releases get hyped for sure.
Mm.
And I remember seeing that. So I'm looking at their Bandcamp. I remember April 2023, they put out a record. Then in October of 2023, they put out a record. Then the one that you're talking about from January of last year.
Yeah.
I think something about the fact that all those records came out in such quick succession made me think, is it actually good? And I haven't listened to it. I have no idea what this sounds like.
Yeah.
But just the fact that sort of these all full lengths, yeah, all full lengths, there was a part of me that's like, how could it be amazing? But apparently a lot of people really, really dig it so much. So I will need to listen to that. I need to listen to that Bedsore record.
You do.
Because is it Willowtip?
I think so. Is it or is it $20 spin?
Well, regardless, both of those labels put out like disgusting shit.
Yeah.
And I listened to their debut and I wanted to like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it may have been 2020 or 2021. I wanted to like it a lot. It was missing something. So I didn't give the new Bedsore a chance. I'll have to do that. But the way that you described it makes me think, with all the prog metal stuff, especially 70s stuff, I guess just maybe a bunch of metal bands were watching like Dario Argento movies in the last like few years, and it just showed up in music. Um, so I'm excited to listen to that. Never heard of Kairos. Um, and Fim, we listened to it. It is good. I will simply say I don't understand it as much, not a prog head, but it makes me happy that everybody else really loved that so much. Um, especially, I mean, last 5 years, holy cow, that's like super high praise.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't say
uh,
it lightly. Like
yeah,
when I
I'll
make
have
a
to,
statement like that, it means I've got the spreadsheet open and I've reviewed 5 years and I'm like, yep, this is it.
yeah, I'll have to freaking listen to it again. I I trust everybody in our chat's music taste.
I
I'll have
really
to come
like that
back to it.
it got a lot of recognition, at least on like the prog metal Reddit and like places I see like that, because they're an excellent band and they they suffered early on from having greater ambitions than they could pull off, sort of with the technology and the people available to them. Like Red Tail is a perfect example. It's a 20-minute song, but if you weren't like in love with it, if you were just a random listener of any kind of music and you put on Red Tail, you could easily be like, this production's not good. Those drums are
Yeah,
fake. It doesn't sound good. Like there's a lot that could put you off of it. I was able to see past that and just be like, whoa, there is like amazing creativity here. And with Fim, all of the detriments, all of the barriers to enjoying it are gone. Like it's
hmm.
the writing is still as good as it was, and the production is better, and the performances are authentic and better, and it's like it's everything that they could have been realized, and that's
Hmm.
what I loved so much about it.
Yeah, and it was at the top of my list too. Really, really enjoyed that. And the only other albums that you listed that I had heard were the ones we did on the podcast together. So I'll have to check out some more of the ones that you mentioned.
I think you'll be intrigued by Kairos. I don't know
Okay,
if Bishop will be into Kairos, but I think you should definitely give it a
all right.
shot.
Yeah, I've been writing down albums that y'all mentioned, and
Yeah,
I'm excited to listen to them. I guess the last thing, just one more thing, is with that Blood Incantation record. I also thought that it sounded really good. I liked that one a lot. To me, they kind of did the same thing that Krallis did. It's why I forgive those like pure synth Krallis records. I for like what's the pure synth Blood Incantation?
Oh, Time Wave Zero.
Yeah, it's cool. Like whenever there's so many bands that just really fail to combine, sci-fi or ambient or proggy nerd shit with their metal. There are so many bands that fail to do it effectively
Mhm.
that when it's done tastefully, not only is it, you know, it's doubly cool. It's the fact that not only did they nail it, but in comparison to how many bands do not nail it, it makes them shine. But whenever, so Blood Incantation, they're like, they got the Alien album, Hidden Histories, then they say, okay, we're even more nerds. You knew we were nerds, we're more nerds than that. Check out Time Wave Zero, mostly synth, and then they nail the combination of
Yeah.
their nerdy stuff and their metal stuff. That's how I feel about the Krallis records. They had a like handful of more experimental, less black metal stuff, and then they figure it out. They say this is how we combine it, and so it's like they're like, we're experimenting, we don't know where it fits yet, but we know that we want these things to be combined, and then when they do it, it's really special. So it makes me, and then there's like an additional wave of excitement of what happens next after that. So I'm excited for whatever the next Krallis record is, and I'm excited for whatever the next Blood Incantation is. I think that on the Krallis Inorganic Rights Bandcamp, it says that that was the last or like the last record that was recorded in the Thousand Caves.
Mhm.
And now I'm curious, what will be the first 10,000 Caves record? Yeah, so good picks, really good picks.
No. I did look one last time over my spreadsheet, and the only other honorable mention that I would be remiss not to throw out is I love the new Poppy. I love every Poppy. I kind of
I
wanted to talk about Poppy on a podcast.
Yeah,
Probably not
I
gonna
was
do.
surprised that
Yeah.
there weren't any like pop picks in there. I was kind of surprised by that.
I have a soft spot for that kind of stuff. I mean, Kylie Minogue put out Tension 2. I don't get what's
I
going
thought it
on
was going
in
to be in there.
I don't get what's going on in pop lately where like you release an album and you plan to release like the B-sides version of that album the next year. Carly Rae Jepsen's done it for like 4 straight albums. Now Kylie did it with Tension 2. It's like just make a longer album. Just put it all out. I'm not
I
sure what
actually
started this phenomenon.
I think I know actually.
Oh,
So this is something that my partner has made me aware of, but so Taylor Swift does it. And Taylor Swift is like, probably one of the most famous people in the world, one of the most famous
safe to say.
musicians to like ever exist. And people say, people who are fans of, other pop artists or other singer-songwriters, stars, like those artists, they'll put out a record and then Taylor Swift will just immediately release something to try and steal the some of that spotlight.
Hmm.
So I feel like that actually might be why other people are doing it is
So
to
it keeps you in the conversation to always to have
yeah,
like new music in that format coming out. That's interesting.
not only keep you in the conversation just in general
Mhm.
because of attention spans, but also if you have another artist who's actively trying to remove you from the conversation, you have to like combat that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
counter it.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. I don't know if that's the true reason, but I would think it might be.
I'm gonna
At
drop
least one of them.
I'm gonna drop the next Potmos Atoymos right after a Taylor Swift album comes out to steal the
Yeah.
spotlight from her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll release my record right after you.
Oh no.
And
But then you can drop your
I'll
B-sides.
have I'll have
yeah.
1 week where the conversation's about me and it's like, oh, did you hear Bishop's new record? That's
Yeah. Well,
awesome.
sick. Yeah. I like Matt said in the beginning, Dave, I'm assuming is as of now a father. So Daddy Dave,
Daddy Dave.
we're missing Daddy Dave. We, there's a void where his absence would usually fill, but um yeah, it's a happy day. Even though we're sad to be without him, it's a happy day. So can this even be called music? Our top tens. This will be out in 5 years.
No,
Probably.
this will go quicker. I've got to get back and edit the other episodes, but now that I'm going to do them simple
Yeah.
edits, it won't take me as long. And my finger is healing up well, so I can get back to editing.
Cool. Cool.
All
Um,
right. Thanks everyone
sick.
for listening and stay tuned for more. And let's
Yeah,
look forward to a good 2025 with more great albums.
yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for chatting.